Hello, hello, and welcome to this Icon podcast. My name is Priscilla Ozodo Acevedo, and it's such a joy to be here hosting the Icon podcast again. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time and are wondering what this girl is doing on your screen, just in case you click this randomly, my name is Priscilla, and this is the Icon podcast. Icon is the International Committee on Nigeria. And we promote human dignity, the right to live, religious freedom, and the protection of the vulnerable from all forms of persecution in Nigeria. Okay. In this season of the Icon podcast, I'm excited because we've been creating opportunities for our guests and for you to speak up on behalf of Nigeria. And when we say speak up, we are not saying just, silently pray or, quietly, say, that's so sad. We are encouraging you to make some noise. Okay. It's time to make some noise on behalf of Nigeria. Last week we wrapped up our Speak Up for Leah event, and we got to show some videos of her family and different people as they spoke up to advocate against injustice. About 10 days ago, we had the 3 hours for 3 years, and we are excited about that. So we want to encourage you. We're not stopping Speak Up for Leah. Continue with this hashtag. We are really trying to go viral, y'all. So when we say speak up, we mean use that share button, use those hashtags. We have this video on our social media that we are trying to go viral. It tells Leah's story in about, a minute or so. Share this video. Make some noise. We are trying to bring attention to this very, very serious issue that a young girl has been away from her family for 3 years. Okay, today we will continue our campaign to speak up for Nigeria, but we've come to realize that the stories of the victims have to become personal to us. They have to touch something inside of us, and they have to be intertwined with our life stories. So we want to help inspire each of us to speak up for Nigeria. So today, our guest is very experienced in the effects of what it looks like when the world speaks up for those in bondage. She has had the world speak on behalf of her and her family, and she has been an advocate for Leah, and I can't wait to introduce her to you. I'm super excited for this opportunity to get to talk to her. But before that, we will have the news of the day. But before the news of the day, we're going to do this. We do this every week, so you shouldn't be shocked. You pick up that phone. For those of you who are following us, you should have received a notification that Icon is live. So you turn your volume down for me, and you immediately click that share button, okay? And we go to click the share button to say, hey, watch us. I keep struggling with, there it is. I keep struggling with YouTube. Okay, I copied the link, and I like to share it on WhatsApp because that's where most of my friends connect with me. So I go to WhatsApp. You can go on Facebook and just click the share. I go to WhatsApp so that I can share this to my status. Y'all, we're trying to get the word out there no matter what, okay? That's what we're doing. So let's do this. I click share, and just like that, more than one person is watching this. Just like that, we have people watching. You want to share it with your Bible study group, share it with your friend group, share it with those people that you know will pay attention, and people that you might not want to pay attention. We want to get the word out there because there's been heartbreaking things have continued to go on in Nigeria today. Here is the news of the week. Nigeria's school abductions, and this article is from BBC, and it's addressing why they think children are being targeted. They reported that since December, more than 600 students have been abducted from schools in northwest Nigeria, highlighting a worrying development in the country's kidnap for ransom crisis. Okay, I need to do a disclaimer here, y'all. We have so much news that we want to share with you in this segment. I don't have much time, so I'm going to read it fast. However, I want to encourage you to follow us on Facebook. We continue to post this news, or subscribe to receive this news items every week from us. So go to iconhelp.org and subscribe. Okay, continuing the news. Friday's kidnapping of nearly 300 students from the government girls science school in Jangebe, Zamfara State, which ended up in their release, if I might add, they have been released. But this was the second mass kidnap from schools in less than 10 days. Kidnapping hundreds of students guarantees publicity and government involvement in negotiations, which could mean millions of dollars in ransom payments. A security expert believes that these abductions have become a lucrative business for criminal gangs. The decision on payment of ransom should be reviewed. What are the best steps to take on preventing the abduction so that we can avoid payment of ransom? This security agent asked. President Muhammadu Buhari also has insinuated that governors should stop fueling the crisis. State governments must review their policies of rewarding bandits with money and vehicles. Such policy has the potential to backfire with disastrous consequences. Huh? Are they rewarding these people? Yes. In the same news from BBC, they said the mastermind of a mastermind of abductions of more than 300 students in Katsina State in December was recently pardoned after he repented and handed over his weapons to the government. He was pardoned. Awalu Dadawa and his gang were promised accommodation by the town, in the town by the governor, along with assistance to improve their livelihood in July last year. Mr. Matawale promised the bandits also 2 cows for every AK-47 gun that they surrendered. This is our Nigeria. Y'all, I don't know about you, but I'm just going to keep pushing through the news because this is worrying news for me personally. In other news, we read about Pastor Bulus Yakuru, whom the Boko Haram terrorists kidnapped on December 24th, 2020. He has been given a 1-week ultimatum to live. His children have stopped their schooling, and the whole family grapples with emotional and financial trauma. Sahara reporters learned that Bulus's wife has also fallen sick as the family, which stays in the Pemi area of Chibok, Borno State, is distressed by Bulus's abductions. Sahara reporters said on Sunday that their community, the same Chibok community, are contributing money for the ransom and plan to meet with the Boko Haram factional leader, Abubakar Shekau, to secure the life of the pastor. This is a quote from the community leaders on behalf of Pastor Bulus. They said, "This is why we are calling on Boko Haram to come and collect the money and spare the life of Bulus. His family needs him and needs a lot of attention." This came from an elder in the community, and the pastor himself cried out in a video that was released last Wednesday. The video was sent by Boko Haram. He cried out to President Muhammadu Buhari and Borno State government and the Christian Association of Nigeria. His plea was sent out from the terrorist den, and he begged that he's been given a 1-week ultimatum, 1 week to live. We have one more news reporting that a village was recently taken captive by terrorists in Nigeria. This village was a UN hub, a UN base that has been captured by Boko Haram. Additionally, we are receiving that report. That picture that just came on your screen is a picture of child soldiers that have been in training, as Boko Haram recently released this picture of training boys as young as 10 years old as the next generation of terrorists. this problem is not as straightforward as we would like it to be. Because in my head, I got so upset and I was like, somebody should just throw a bomb and destroy all of their bases, since some of their bases are known. But if a bomb is thrown, it's killing some of these young boys that have been kidnapped from their families. It's killing people like Leah that have been away from their family. This runs deeper. And it's time to speak out and not be silent. That was the news of the week. All right. Switching gears just a little bit, I'm going to introduce you to our guest for today, and I'm going to just read a little bit about her. I first heard about Naghmeh about 2 weeks ago when we were preparing for the Leah Sharibu event, and I've just been enthralled by her since then, and her story has just captured my heart. Naghmeh Panahi is the executive director of Tahrir Al-Nisa, which assists women in escaping and recovering from domestic abuse. In 2012, her then husband, Saeed Abedini, was arrested for his outspoken faith while visiting Iran. Naghmeh helped to bring national attention to his case, which assisted in his eventual release. Please join me to give a warm welcome for the first time, but definitely it's not going to be the last time, to our HTV studios. Please welcome Naghmeh.
Hi.
Yay! It's such a pleasure to have you. I'm super excited. I count it such a privilege to be able to interview you in this capacity and hear your story firsthand from you. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yay. So some people who may be joining us may not know who you are, may not have heard your story. So if you can just briefly describe who you are, your calling, when people think about Naghmeh, what are they thinking? Who is Naghmeh? If that's not too much of a cheesy question.
Well, I was born Muslim, became a follower of Christ at age 9. And when people think of Naghmeh, they think about advocating for the persecuted church. That's when I was on the news a lot. I was on major media all over the world, BBC, CNN, Fox, advocating to not only get my then husband out of prison, but for the persecuted church that was suffering in countries like Iran. And now we see with Nigeria what's happening. And I guess that's what people think of when they think of me advocating for the persecuted church.
Yeah, let's step into your story a little bit, just because people hear about the persecuted church and it's like, oh, somebody far, far away, but you represented the persecuted church. So this question has two parts. And the first part is, where were you and how did you receive the news of your husband being arrested? You were already in the US, right? And your husband's visiting Iran and you received news that he was arrested. How did that land in your life and how did you process that?
First, I want to say that I really had no understanding of persecution until, because I was born and raised as Muslim until 9. I came to America at age 9. Became a Christian. I didn't go back to Iran until my early 20s. And at that time I had become a Christian. And that was the first time I saw the persecution that Christians face actually in Iran, like in Nigeria, anyone of a different belief. It was Baha'is, Christians, it was anyone that had a different belief than Iran's version of Shia Muslim. And so that was the first time I saw it. As a Christian, I firsthand experienced being arrested, having guns pointed to me, told to deny my faith. Much of what has happened to Leah. That's what really grabbed me. I remember being attacked for my faith and told that I was to return to Islam. And so I had some experience in that area as a woman, and especially as a woman that they're targeted more. They have less rights in a lot of these countries than the men do. And if they're married or whatever, and they become a Christian, they really don't have a lot of rights. The husband makes a lot of those. And so that really opened up my eyes in the early 2000s of persecution, and especially how women are affected by it most. And then came to America, married my husband in Iran, came to America, had our kids, 2 kids, and he got arrested in while visiting Iran in 2012.
Wow.
And at that time, and you wanted my reactions. We're going to explain more later.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I remember getting a call from his mom, just crying hysterically and saying Saeed has been arrested. And I remember at that time, just my kids were sleeping. It was late at night, America time. It was in the morning, Iran time. And I just remember looking at my toddlers at that time sleeping and my heart dropping. I felt like my whole world was turned upside down. I had extreme anxiety, just started crying and just walking around the house, looking at my kids sleeping and saying, what am I going to do? Felt completely hopeless, had no connection with anyone, with media, with the government. I was a working mom with 2 kids in Boise, Idaho, a small,
Wow.
unknown city in America. So, and a lot of people know where Los Angeles is or New York or whatever. No one really knew where Boise, Idaho was. So I wasn't known. I had no connection with anyone. And I thought, what am I going to do?
Wow. So what was the process like going from this unknown mom from Boise, Idaho, that had no connections, to having and not having any influence, to having 1,000 prayer vigils around the country or around the world on behalf of your family? How did that bridge? Where did you start from? What happened right there?
Well, I think the summary is God. I prayed
Yes.
and fasted for about 6 months. I was a very private person. I had no social media account, zero. I didn't, I was very private, didn't want anyone even knowing like where I was eating out. I remember my then husband would post a photo of us eating somewhere and I'd be like, why do people need to know that? Very private. So I didn't really want to go public with it. And I was also afraid that if I went public, and I'm sure that has been the issue with Leah, there's fear partly that if you go public, things are going to get worse for them.
Yeah.
That you might become a hostage issue, that the Boko Haram or the government might say, oh, now it's on the media. So I really struggled with that, prayed and fasted for about 6 months. And then I just knew it was time, and God really laid it on my heart. And the way things opened up was pretty shocking, how fast it, I went to media with it. I was on Hannity on Fox News, and that was my first interview. And then after that, it just blew up. I was literally on the news with BBC, CNN, Fox, anything you can, writing articles for the Washington Post, for the Wall Street Journal. I was just either written article or TV. I was all over the news, and it just exploded. It was slow. By 2012, end of 2012, I went to media. By 2014, it had really spread. By 2015, we had 1,000 prayer vigils all over the world. Every single capital in the U.S. had a prayer vigil on Saeed's arrest. And it was about 500 million people were reached.
Wow.
And it was really shocking for me because how much people cared about our family. And so that's my heart for Leah, is for people to really see Leah as part of their own. And as they did our family, people really cried for our family. They wrote letters. They got involved because there was a connection between my family and that's my hope for Leah. And not only Leah, what's happening in Nigeria is horrible. What you just read with the news, with the attacks.
Yeah.
And sometimes we hear so much news, we can disassociate and be like, well, that's over there. I'm living here. And recently I shared something that, about a preacher that said, I forget his name. He was he said that, that if we don't speak out, he said that they first came for the communists. I didn't speak out. Then if we don't speak out, there will be a time where our religious freedom will be endangered, and people will not be speaking out for us. So it's really important, even though if it's a different part of the world, we care. We see them as our family, especially as Christians. We are one family. When one suffers, when one family's suffering, it really should affect all of us. And that really seeing Leah's mom a couple of years ago
Mhm.
touched my heart.
Mm.
She's a just the grief she was going to, not
Mm.
knowing where Leah was sleeping, what was happening to her, what she was eating. And as a mom's heart, I have a daughter around her age.
Mm.
My heart just broke. And I hope that that's what really people really think about is what would happen if in America your daughter was going to school and she got attacked by radical Muslims, was
Mm.
taken, you're a 14-year-old,
Yeah.
and by God's grace, she stands up for her faith and says, no, I will not deny Christ.
Yeah.
And because of that, she's held back. Everyone
Yeah.
else is released and she's held back.
Yeah.
What would you do, and what would you want the world to do? Would you want the world to say, well, another thing on the news, or would you
Mm.
want people to really be speaking out? So my heart goes out. I guess I want to speak to all the moms out there.
Yeah.
Or all the dads too. I mean, what if that was your daughter? She has been tortured. She's been, there's rumors of her having possibly a baby, at being given as a child bride at that age, and just there's so much. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. And thank you for, I feel like you answered a chunk of my other questions, which is beautiful because then we can talk about more things. But one of the things we've been dealing with at ICON is we've been trying to bring awareness about the things that are happening in Nigeria and the persecution that is happening in Nigeria. And while it might be similar but different from what's going in Iran or from what happened in Iran, there seems to be this communication gap because we see the intensity of what's happening on the one hand, and on the other hand, it's this complacency of life goes on as normal. How would you suggest to bridge that communication gap to help people see the seriousness? You mentioned one was people really owning the stories, but they're hearing so many stories every day, like you said, and there's some kind of a block out of, I'm not going to pay attention to this, or another one's just going to happen tomorrow. How would you suggest that that communication gap is bridged to get the world involved and to have empathy for what's happening for Leah and others like her?
Yeah, first, I think, like we saw with ISIS, we saw beheadings and stuff, and things can become really normal. And other news, another persecution. Really check your heart. Why is it becoming normal to you? Why isn't it affecting you the way it should be? To see a brother or sister, especially as Christians, but also as not Christians, as humanity, when to the best of our ability, when we can do something, why aren't we being affected? And really search your own heart. And also, I think a lot of times people when I started advocating, people didn't think their voice made a difference. I didn't think as a mom in Boise, Idaho, I could really make a difference. And I start telling people, your phone call matters. These congressmen, these senators don't get very many phone calls. So they get 3 or 4 phone calls. I remember here in Boise, there was a billboard that had really crazy stuff on it. And I was in a women's Bible study, and 4 of us called and said, this is not acceptable. And there's, they can have stuff on the billboard as they want, but they brought it down because 4 people called.
Wow.
And so a lot of these congressmen and senators, they're not getting a lot of phone calls. They're not getting a lot of letters. So when they get 4 or 5 or 10, they think, oh, this is a big deal. I never get this many. So your voice matters. And when people started calling their congressmen, their senators, their State Department, and saying, hey, let's put pressure on this country. If even here in the US, if we put pressure on our country and say, why is this happening? Why do we not care? We care about women's rights and gender issues. Why aren't we caring about someone who wants to believe in Jesus and is taken by Boko Haram? The Nigerian government should do something about it. And so for people to know that your voice really does matter, even if it's one call, if it's one email, if it's one letter, and it does make a difference, because these politicians are not getting a lot of it. And what can we do here in the States or all over the world? When you contact your country, then they can in fact affect other countries. They can go to Nigeria and say, hey, this is becoming a big deal in my country.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I did. It wasn't just US. I traveled to European Parliament. I spoke at the US Congress 3 times, but I also have spoken at, I spoke in Europe. I spoke at the
Mm,
UN in Europe, in Geneva, and I
mm,
asked other countries to speak out. Yeah, it was, it was not a European citizen, my husband, he was an American citizen, but really for humanity, we should care, whether we're, whether they're Christians. I would also advocate for Baha'is, who are a different sect of Islam that
mhm.
are also being persecuted in
Yeah.
Iran.
Yeah.
So as humanity, we should care that someone chooses to believe something. They're not being violent. They're praying. They're in their home. They're not affecting anyone negatively, and they are being killed and abducted. And now girls are afraid to go to school because
Mhm.
Christian girls are targeted.
Yeah.
We should care about that, and to know that your voice really does count. It might seem
Yeah.
one email, one phone call, but it's been amazing to see how, and it adds up, and
Yeah.
how those little phone calls, emails make a huge difference. And that's what really got the movement going. It was a handful of people. The first day we did it, the first year we did a prayer vigil, it was about 30 cities.
Oh,
By year 3, there was 1,000 cities at that prayer
wow.
vigil. So it spread. And so just it will start small, but it's going to keep spreading. But you be a voice. And as
Mm,
Christians, I know there's non-Christians out there that are listening, but as Christians, we are called to be a voice for the voiceless.
mm,
I am in America right now. I'm not in Iran, and I have a right to speak, and I have voting rights, and I can call my congressman and senator. Why not use that? Why not
yeah.
use that right to speak out for a brother or sister that's in another country? And so that's,
Wow.
I would say, I would say your question, why aren't you caring? Why is this becoming just another story? Whereas if
Mm,
it was your daughter, you would really want people to care. You would want
mm,
neighbors jumping in and doing what they can. And
yeah.
second is, your voice does count. Don't just
Yeah.
pass by and say, what can I do? This is happening in Nigeria. Like,
Yeah.
your voice will make a difference.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Oh my gosh, I could sit down and talk to. I'm going to tell my producers we need to have a part 2 because this just doesn't seem to cover everything. But before we go, I just want you to take a chance. You are one of the few people that can almost physically feel what Leah's family is going through right now, or what families of these prisoners and abductees, what their families are going through right now. We know that sometimes Leah's family and people like her get the opportunity to watch this show. What will you say to them if you could sit in front of them right now, having gone through what you went through with your children, and the pain and the emotional trauma? What would you say to them right now?
Yeah, first of all, I feel your pain, just the anxiety, the lack of control you have over the situation. And I think even if people haven't been arrested, or their loved one hasn't been arrested for their faith or abducted, they can feel that. We've all gone through trauma or some suffering where we felt we have no control over this.
Hmm.
And it's been horrible, the anxious, the dark place we've been at. And that's where I just understand where that is. And also, having been taken to jail myself by radicals in Iran, you feel hopeless. You feel you have no control over the situation. And all I can say is, for 3.5 years, I didn't give up. And
Hmm.
it came after 3.5 years. Saeed was supposed to be in prison for almost a decade. And it happened after 3.5 years. But every single day, I did not give up. I got up and I spoke out. So I think perseverance is big. Whether whoever's listening is in the situation of being in persecution, or those who are seeing it, just don't give up. Every
Hmm.
single day, speak out. Even if there doesn't seem to be a crowd, or people listening, or people caring, don't give up. And for 3.5 years, every single day, I did something. And the time, wasn't 8 years. After three and
Yeah.
a half years, Saeed got out of prison. And
Wow.
so I just would say, don't give up. Keep trusting God.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for joining me. I wish I will probably do this, is just have a time to just tell your story. There's so many more questions I had that I'm like, we're running out of time. But I saw this quote on your website that I want to read for our viewers before you leave. It was a quote by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And you said he said silence is in the face of evil is itself evil.
Mhm.
God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that on your website because it called my attention to a quote that I will never have found. And it made me realize that there's no neutral ground. We
Yeah.
all have to be doing something.
Yeah,
And you,
silence is action.
yeah,
You're siding with the oppressor.
yeah, yeah. And I know most of us watching this are saying, I will never side with Boko Haram. I will never side with the Fulani militants. But when we do nothing, that's exactly what we are doing.
Exactly. We're siding with them. We're allowing it. We're enabling it.
Yes.
Yes.
And so as we thank Naghmeh for being here, I'm so grateful to you. I'm following you. I'm supporting you. We didn't even have time to talk about your ministry. Now I'm going to let you talk a little bit about that before we go. The work you're doing against abuse, and tell us a little bit about it, and how can people reach you if people want to follow you? What are ways that they can reach you?
Well, I'm actually taking a break right now from the ministry, taking
Okay.
time to pray. But I think I have my personal page at Instagram and Facebook, but I've been pretty quiet. So I don't know. I do want to leave with, I think leaving with the quote you shared is
Mm,
like my heart, that
yes.
I just want to leave with that. Ultimately, is I just want to, yeah, leave with that we can't speak for everyone, but
Mm,
when Leah's situation was brought to my attention, now I was responsible to speak.
mm,
And that really grabbed me. So we did a prayer vigil with Leah's mom a few years ago, or
mm,
last year, I think it was a couple of years ago. But
yeah.
it's just, then you see a story. Yeah, you can't talk about every story, but you see a story, you are now responsible to speak, because when you don't speak, Boko Haram, ISIS, they continue to do what they want
Yeah.
to do. The Iranian government with their religious persecution, they will continue to do. But when people speak out, actually governments start becoming accountable. And
Yeah.
also as for the Iranian government, but also for Nigeria, Boko Haram, they see that people care and people are not silent, and it does affect what happens in Nigeria.
Mm. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you coming on the show. And for our viewers, you can see her information just gliding down on the ticker. You may want to follow her, hear her stories. I want to also thank you for sharing so much about Leah last week and sharing everything we were posting on social media. Thank you for being part of this narrative. We look forward to having more conversations with you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yay. So this has been another amazing episode. I just personally found somebody that I really love her story, and I will continue to follow her. But the question now is, what will you do to be a voice for the oppressed this week? What will you do today? What will you do tomorrow? Like Naghmeh said, we've lost the right. The fact that you're watching this right now means that you have lost the right to do nothing. So I want to challenge you today. We constantly saying, if you're like, I don't know where to start, I will tell you. Go to iconhelp.org/engage. We can help you get the information of your congressman, your senator. You can send them a letter. You can call them to say, why has nothing been done about Leah Sharibu? We can start making, like she said, this congressmen are not hearing from enough of us. Let's make some noise. Or you can simply share, or just learn about it and share the news. Sign up for our weekly news updates. You want to do that, join the conversation. We're constantly posting things, constantly saying things on Facebook and Instagram. Join the conversation. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Icon Help One, on Facebook as Icon Help, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get notifications about this. YouTube, we are Icon Help, and just click that subscribe notification button. Click subscribe and click the notification bell so that you get access, you get notified when we are online. Y'all, It could be as simple today as hitting share or just following one of our social media so you are aware. It's too late to bury your head in the sand. Let's speak up. Let's speak up on behalf of Nigeria. Let's speak up on behalf of Leah. Are you going to be one of the people that Leah will thank when she gets out? Thank you for joining us for yet another episode of HTV Hear Their Voices and Icon Podcast. Again, my name is Priscilla Osdodo Acevedo, and it's been a pleasure. Have a blessed week. God bless you.